Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be about everyone's favorite Hallmark holiday, Valentine's Day. I'll be showing you how to create a masterpiece to give to your beloved, or yourself, in just 6 easy steps. So first, let's go over what you'll need. 1. A canvas, any size will do. I'm using a 16 by 20 canvas in this tutorial. 2. A few brushes in different sizes. 3. A palette for your paint. 4. A cup of water to clean your brushes with. 5. Acrylic paint in the following colors: black, white, blue, and gray. Now that you have everything you need, let's move on to the first step. Our first step is an optional one. I'm just quickly covering my canvas in plain white paint and letting it dry before I move on to the next step. I find that doing this smooths out the texture of the canvas a bit and makes it easier for the paint to spread. Feel free to skip over this step if you'd like. Step 2. Our second step will be to create a background. For this, I'm going to do a blue and black gradient. To make a clean gradient, you'll need to work a bit quickly on this step so that the paint doesn't dry in between layers. I've mixed a bit of blue and white to create a lighter tint as my starting point for this gradient. You'll notice that I'm leaving a bit of blank space at the bottom of the canvas. I'll explain why a bit later in the video. Then, I'll add just the plain blue for the center of my gradient. And finally, at the top of the canvas, I'll be doing a bit of black. Once you've blocked out the 3 colors, you can go ahead and with a clean brush, start to blend in the separation of each color. I'm working from the lighter blue and working my way up so I don't mess up the lighter shades of blue. Once this is done, you'll need to let your canvas dry for about 15 minutes or so before moving on to the next step. Step 3. Now that the canvas is dry, we can move on to painting some scenery in our background. I'm going to paint the moon in the sky first. To do this, I'm taking a bit of white and marking a dot roughly where I want the center of the moon to be. Then, I'm lightly painting 2 intersecting lines and then connecting those lines together so that I can easily create a relatively symmetrical circle. Then, I'm filling in the circle with white. Next, I'm blotting in some gray in a random formation to add some texture. Finally, I'm filling in the moon again with more white to blend in the gray a bit so that it's not so obvious. Now I'm going to add some mountains. For this layer, I'm using plain black and first outlining the shape of the mountains. Once you're happy with the shape, you can go ahead and fill them in with more black. You'll want to fill them in just slightly past the blank space we have left at the bottom. Once that's done, let the paint dry for a bit before moving on to the next step. Step 4. Next, we'll be adding in more mountains. This time we'll be using gray. Try to use a darker shade of gray, or add a bit of black to your current gray paint. We want the background to stay in the background, and not stand out too much from the other layers we'll be adding on top. Once you're happy with the shape of your gray mountains, go ahead and fill those in. This time paint almost to the bottom of your canvas. You can paint all the way down, but the reason why I leave that space is to avoid wasting more paint than you need to, as we'll be filling that space with something else anyway. Once your mountains are filled in, take a bit of white paint on a smaller brush and outline the peaks of your mountains. Once you've done that, you can start to texturize the rockiness of the mountains by dry brushing the white paint down from the line you just painted. Now we are going to add part of the foreground of our painting. To do this, take some black paint and start to outline in a U formation, starting on the edge of your canvas, slightly higher up, and working your way down, slightly leveling out as you come to the center of the canvas, and then back up again to the other edge of your canvas. Make sure that you're using this layer to entirely cover that empty space we left at the bottom of the canvas. Once you're happy with the outline, go ahead and fill in the space with black. While the paint is still wet, add some gray paint to the center of the U shape and blend it in so that you are creating a lighter ground area. Just imagine the moon is shining onto the center of the valley that you just created. Once this is done, go ahead and repeat the same process that we did on the mountains, outlining in white and texturizing. If you feel comfortable enough with this, you can use the same process with the moon to create a sort of glowing effect. Then, let your canvas dry for a little bit before moving on to the next step. Step 5. Now we are going to add a bit more to our foreground. The first thing I'll be adding will be a few trees. Trees are a lot of fun to paint, at least for me. I find that because trees can grow into some pretty weird shapes, it's very difficult to mess up a tree when you're painting. I generally start by painting the tree trunk straight up first, and then working my way outward with the branches. I'm using a black paint for this, starting with a medium-sized brush and eventually using a smaller brush to do the branches and the tip of the tree. Once you have painted in a few trees, we're again going to outline the trees in white. For this I'm sort of randomly outlining. You don't have to completely outline the tree as we are going for more of a light effect than anything else. You can also texturize the tree slightly as you go with some white. Keep in mind that this is the light from the moon, which is coming from the center. So keep the texture more to the side of the tree that is closest to the center of the canvas. Now comes the cutesy romantic part of this tutorial. I'll be painting two little bunnies in the center watching the moon rising and enjoying the night sky. To do this, it's quite simple. Start by painting a larger oval shape and then a smaller round shape, sort of like a mini snowman. Then you'll add the ears. I've done one with a floppy ear just to differentiate between the two. You can easily make this into two cats if you wanted to by reshaping the ears. Once you're happy with it, let the paint dry again for a few minutes before moving on to the next step. Step 6. Now for our final step, we'll just be going in and finishing up by adding some more detail. I'm first going to outline the bunnies with white again, using our outline and texturize process. Then I'm adding a bit more detail to the mountains and trees. I'm also adding some shadow behind the bunnies to again show a bit more of the light effects from the moon. You can also add a bit of long grass by the base of the trees and to the edge of the ground where the bunnies are. Once you're happy with your finished painting, let it dry one final time for about an hour or two before you wrap it up to gift it to your significant other. Or just slap a nail in the wall and hang it up for yourself. Hopefully you had some fun painting this. There are lots of opportunities for you to customize this to your liking. For example, you can easily turn this into a daytime scene by changing the gradient color in the background. You can do a city skyline instead of mountains. There are tons of options. Have fun and experiment with your painting. Let me know in the comments down below if you decided to change it up. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Stay safe, stay creative, and happy Valentine's Day.